What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, what's going to cause some volatility in the stock price, and what just came out that was rather bullish. So I'm going to go over all the things that you need to know, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. On a side note, hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far, and everyone is excited for this upcoming week, which no doubtably is going to be another crazy roller coaster of a week. Starting off with some data points. So you do have a lot of consumer linked data starting off on Wednesday, so ADP non-farm employment. That is followed by Friday non-farm payroll. Forecast is 177,000 for payroll and 166,000 for employment. And then also on Wednesday you do have the Fed interest rate decision, and so it is fair to assume that there won't be any cut because right now there's a 93.8% likelihood of nothing happening. If you are very optimistic, like glass half full kind of scenario, there is a 6.2% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut, but it is fair to assume nothing will happen. But aside from that, it's rather what Powell is going to say afterwards that is going to shock the broader market. So again, that is coming out on Wednesday. Aside from that, SoFi has their earnings. So I want to talk about that and some expectations. So it is coming out on the 30th pre-market. These are the current estimates. So there hasn't been any last minute changes from analysts, nothing like that. So they're kind of stuck with what they have. 1 cent is the earnings per share. 566.69 million is the revenue. Over the last 90 days, 3 positive earnings per share revisions, 5 negatives. These are currently the estimates right here. So you do have that 1 cent that's based on 13 analysts for the earnings per share. And then for the revenue, 566.69 million, that is done by 10 analysts. And that does represent a 15.93% year-over-year growth. So all in all, I think that's relatively good. This estimate did go down recently from roughly around 578 to 566. I did bring that up in a previous video. I think that's rather good. I know it's minor, but it's still kind of setting the bar a little bit lower. So if SoFi once again hits another home run earnings, it's going to make SoFi's earnings look so much better. Well, not so much better, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's going to look a little bit better. And even comparing, for instance, last earnings, you did see that they did beat by 21.12 million. So all in all, I think SoFi's upcoming earnings is going to be very, very good. But mind you, just to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, typically there has been a very strong correlation between, I guess, web traffic to SoFi.com and as well just member growth. So based on this website, it does show more of a reduction. And this is something that's been floating around on social media quite a lot. So in general, this might kind of insinuate not a substantial amount of growth when it comes down to member growth, and that obviously will really affect the many other aspects such as products and deposits. So once again, just kind of be prepared for that. That might be coming out. One thing that they could potentially bring up, so 𝗪𝗧 did post this, and so this does show a update to the app as of July 24th, 2024, a version 3.0.5. So a very substantial update. And so as you can kind of see based on the notes, it says get up to 1,000 in stock when you fund a active invest account. So I think it is fair to assume that a lot of people kind of think that the whole invest is subpar. So hopefully SoFi is actually working on that behind the scenes based on this update and kind of the notes right here. So that would be a very good talking point during their earnings. Plus, Chris could definitely talk very much on about how there might be back-to-back rate cuts, keeping in line with what Anthony and their expectations are. Because right now, September 18th and also the November 7th both indicate a 25 basis point cut, at least, bare minimum. So once again, that could be a very good talking point and make SoFi look very, very good. So I think in general, there's going to be positives and negatives. What does come from their earnings? This is where, based on the options activity, I'm going to go over some of the bullish and bearish. So looking at the open interest on calls, it is anticipated to reach roughly a high of $9, arguably maybe $9.50. And then looking at puts, you do see it potentially sub 550. So regardless, you have massive volatility expected. And I think right now, this is probably the most volatile earnings that SoFi has had in at least a year and a half. So in general, this is going to be a very big pivot for SoFi. The technicals are still rather optimistic as long as SoFi does stay above that 50-day moving average. So as long as that does happen, then in theory, the bullish options are kind of realistic. $9 is somewhat anticipated. On the flip side, if their earnings, if they kind of miss on some aspects or fail to really talk positively about the future, then yeah, things definitely could take a turn for the worst. So I think all in all, it's going to be a very volatile earnings, as I said. So kind of just anticipate that. One positive thing did recently come out, and I just wanted to share this with you, more of a side note, but good old Cathie Wood. So a lot of people absolutely love that she's been in SoFi. I, on the other hand, have always been calling out that she's no different than basically Jim Cramer. Her accuracy has been very subpar, and recently, as of Q2, disclosed as of the 26th, she did return about 10.4% of their position. So not necessarily the best. As you can kind of see, she did accumulate between these price ranges in Q2 between 632 and 789. So if she did close within Q2, it is fair to assume she probably exited around the $8 range, most likely. So took some profits and ran. But it just shows her commitment, right? Like, she has all this talk, and actually, to be fully honest, I found it absolutely hilarious how 1 week she said that, what was her minimum target on Tesla, like 1,500 or whatever it was, or I think that was her bear case. And then literally the next week she sold like a ton of Tesla shares. It's like, what the fuck does anyone see in her? So yeah, pardon my French on a side note. So yeah, in general, the fact that she is liquidating and selling out some of her position, I think that is a-okay to me, and very bullish for the underlying stock. Aside from all that stuff though, like I said, options should be very interesting. This is the current open interest, so just take note of some of these. Depending on SoFi's earnings, where it kind of lands, this is where you will see kind of market manipulation at its finest. So based on right now, 17.04% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 176.93 million shares. Shorts did return about 150,000 shares on Friday. Utilization 58.12, and then short score 72.09. I was giving projections on how shorts were going to return some shares leading up to their earnings, that there was going to be a little bit more FOMO, pushing it closer to the $8 range. But shorts have been very stubborn over this last little bit. As you can kind of see, shorts did return, went from around 18.25 to where it is now, but nonetheless, there was no real pullback to like that 15% range that I was anticipating. So they are lingering around. I don't know if it is because of maybe points such as this that insinuate maybe some volatility, or maybe something negative. Again, I'm not really sure, so let me know your thoughts on that. As far as some strong support and resistance points, just to take note of, obviously on Monday is 750. That's going to be the next strong resistance / target, and then 721 is going to be the next strong support. Aside from Monday, it is going to be anyone's guess. So Tuesday, encumbering their earnings is going to cause SoFi to be all over the place. Then you have Powell on Wednesday, which is going to completely shake the broader market. So like I said, anticipate a lot of volatility. If you guys do not know options, highly suggest in researching them. I did actually put out a dedicated options video under my dedicated Lucid channel. I will be doing a kind of tutorial on buying and selling calls, puts, and things like that. Just basic stuff, and then I'll kind of move into more strategic kind of options and things that you need to know. More specifically, like right here, so I'll go over long calls, puts, cash secured puts, covered calls, and then I'll move on to more of the multiple different leg strategies. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'll try to, actually what I'll do is I'll have a link to the Lucid one in the description below. A lot of the examples are correlated with that, but I'm sure some of you guys are invested in that as well, or just can get the examples out. But nonetheless, where do you guys see SoFi being by the end of this week? Do you think it is going to be based on the call options around the $9 range or $9.50, or do you think it is going to be bearish and be sub maybe $6 or $5.50? What's your guys' thoughts? And do you guys think that this is optimistic, the fact that Kathy did dump some of her position, or do you think it's negative? What's your kind of thoughts on that? On a side note, I believe it is going to be at the beginning of Q4. That's when that new SEC transparency rule is going to be kicking in. So that does mean going forward, the 13Fs, if anyone is short, they will have to disclose it, because right now 13Fs, it is completely voluntary if someone is shorting or not. Of course, many institutions, why would they voluntarily say that? Because that would paint them in a negative light. So this is why you do see most of these not really disclosing their short position. This one you do right here, short. But aside from that, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.